U ime organizatora obratit će vam se predsjednik Crnogorske akademije Nauka i umjetnosti akademik Dragan Vukčević, a potom rektor Univerziteta Crne Gore, profesor dr. Vladimir Božović. Izvolite.
Poštovani prijatelji, uvaženi rektore Univerziteta Crne Gore, profesore Božoviću, poštovana ministarko nauke u vladi Crne Gore, profesorice Šćepanović, cijenjeni profesore Šehman, kolege akademici i profesori univerziteta, dragi gosti. Čini mi čast da priložim svoju riječ ovom svojevrsnom sabranju umnosti i učenosti. Kasno smo kao društvo i država zakoračili na put koji vodi iz sela u grad, sa njive u fabriku i iz crkve u školu. Cijenu zakašnjele moderne plaćamo i danas. Zato je, po mom sudu, neznanje najveći problem savremene Crne Gore. Teško shvatamo da su institucije krovovi pod kojima se oblikuje kultura jednog društva i njegove države. I teško prihvatamo da je planiranje elita oblikovanje sopstvene budućnosti. Zbog nedostatka tih institucija, naše nekadašnje elite oblikovane su i stvarane van Crne Gore. Duga je i široka rijeka onih darovitih ljudi kojima smo oticali iz sebe. Mnogi od onih koji su danas ovdje i svojim dolaskom učinili čast i Crnogorskoj akademiji Nauka i umjetnosti i Univerzitetu Crne Gore i Crnoj Gori, potomci su tih darovitih ljudi. Želim da vam izrazim iskreno i duboko poštovanje i zahvalnost što ste danas ovdje. Vjerujem da samo sa boljima od nas pored sebe možemo postati bolji od onih kakvi jesmo. Zahvalnost dugujem i profesoru Veljku Milutinoviću, inostranom članu Crnogorske akademije Nauka i umjetnosti, na ideji, energiji i organizovanosti prilikom organizovanja ovog skupa. I on je sin jednog od tih darovitih ljudi koji su svojevremeno svoje uspjehe oblikovali u institucijama van Crne Gore, ne zaboravljajući odakle su krenuli. Ali, polako i rekao bih nepovratno, u Crnoj Gori sazrijeva svijest da je kultura posljednja odbrana države, da je profesionalizam najbolji oblik patriotizma i da je ulaganje u znanje najveća zaloga razvoja. Samo na takvom putu moguće je težiti razvijenom svijetu, biti njegov dio, a pritom ne izgubiti sebe. Ja vjerujem da je ovaj skup značajan korak na tom putu. Crnogorska akademija Nauka i umjetnosti ostaje otvorena za ovakve susrete u dolazećem vremenu. Našem pozivu odazvao se i profesor Dan Šehman. Dear friends, it's our great pleasure to welcome in opportunity the only Nobel laureate in chemistry in 2011 for discovery of quasicrystals, Professor Dan Shechtman from Israel. Professor Shechtman, you belong to the people who has paid a great price of its survival through history. In that perseverance through time, your people has intensively created defending itself with its own culture. Similar was the path of survival of Montenegro in history. I hope that there will be other opportunities to meet again on the occasion of such important gatherings which represent a significant celebration of knowledge. Poštovani učesnici, vi koji ste došli na ovaj skup možda možete bez Crne Gore, ali znajte da ona zna da je bolja sa vama i da su vam njena vrata otvorena. Hvala.
Uvaženi profesore Shechtman, predsjedniče Akademije profesore Vukčeviću, ministarko Šćepanović, uvaženi rektori, akademici, ekscelencije, drage kolege i gosti. Ova konferencija, iako joj naslov određuje okvir, nema samo naučni karakter. Ima širi, kulturološki, a prije svega motivacioni značaj. Ona je po svom sadržaju, a potpuno sam siguran i po odjecima koje će imati, zlata vrijedna poruka da možemo. Dakle, da možemo. I vrijeme je da preokrenemo perspektivu pogleda na naše mogućnosti. Naša veličina ne može biti utisnuta samo u suvim brojevima, već iznad svega u ideji koju nosimo. Vjerujem da Crna Gora ima potencijal koji daleko nadmašuje statističke parametre kojima se suvoparno, enciklopedijski opisuje. Ovdje jeste izvor dobrog duha, britkih ideja, ali i tradicije koju moramo brižljivo čuvati u izazovnim vremenima, njegovati od najranijeg uzrasta. I samo tako se gradi pečat snažne kulture kojim su se i neki mali narodi vinuli visoko na ljestvici opšte čovječanskih dostignuća, naučnih i svih ostalih. Naša snaga i značaj se može mjeriti time koga možemo da privučemo i okupimo. Zato dovoljno je pogledati danas spisak onih koji će ovdje govoriti i jasno je. U pitanju je naučni događaj elitnog svjetskog nivoa. Time svjedočimo njegoševsku poruku, misao lovčanskog genija iz nešto drugačijeg ugla. Onoliko koliko je lako iz grmena velikog izaći na svjetsku pozornicu, toliko je teško iz male zemlje skromne naučne tradicije. Zaista je teško, ali je moguće, potvrđuju glasovi nauke i znanja okupljeni u ovoj sali na ovoj konferenciji. U tom duhu, a očekujući plodove i ovog današnjeg okupljanja, bila je i moja poruka mladim kolegama koji su ove godine zakoračili na Univerzitet Crne Gore. Zamolio sam ih da budemo odgovorni prema darovima koje imamo, da ih ne protraćimo i ne dopustimo da budemo radna snaga za ostvarenje tuđih snova. To što smo mala zajednica nikako ne znači da ne treba da se borimo da bi bili najbolji u onom što radimo. Možda je zato nama teže, ali su zato plodovi uspjeha slađi i dugotrajniji. Vrijednost nauke ne smije biti u znanju koje se hladno niže u spratovima vremena, bez topline za život društva, bez odgovornosti za čovjeka i njegove potrebe. Mi ne želimo visokotehnološku, apatičnu i hladnokrvnu civilizaciju u kojoj je čovjek puka statistička jedinica, a negdje čak i višak. Duboko vjerujem da je nauci potreban danas povratak smislu u humanističkom okviru, što je njeno rodno mjesto. Isto toliko vjerujem da je ova konferencija korak u tom pravcu. Ako svake godine budemo okupljali naučnu elitu kao što smo to uradili zahvaljujući ogromnom entuzijazmu i trudu uvaženog profesora i prijatelja Veljka Milutinovića, onda Crna Gora neće biti samo divna turistička zemlja, već ćemo ovim silnim planinama dodati i neke eminentne naučne vrhove. Dear Professor Schechtman, on behalf of University of Montenegro and my personal name, we owe special appreciation to you for the time you dedicated to show support to our scientific and academic community. Thus, in the line of the title of this symposium, you are proving that you are a true friend of this university and Montenegro in general. Thank you for your coming here. Zahvaljujem se svima i želim svima uspješan i plodan rad. Hvala.
Hvala akademiku Vukčeviću i rektoru Božoviću. Riječ ima profesor dr. Biljana Šćepanović, ministarka nauke i tehnološkog razvoja u vladi Crne Gore.
Nije lako govoriti poslije prethodnika. Poštovani predsjedniče CANU, profesore Vukčeviću, poštovani rektore Univerziteta Crne Gore, profesore Božoviću, poštovani profesore Schechtman, dear and respected professor Schechtman, uvaženi članovi predsjedništva CANU i rektorskog kolegijuma Univerziteta Crne Gore, poštovani gosti, kolege, učesnici skupa sa raznih meridijana, uključujući crnogorski. Hvala vam što smo se danas okupili u Crnoj Gori povezani naukom i samom Crnom Gorom, u smislu života i rada u njoj, u smislu crnogorskog porijekla, u smislu saradnje i jakih prijateljskih veza sa Crnom Gorom. Jesmo mala država, teritorijom, populacijom, ali ta mala država ima svoje dijeliće, svoje predstavnike širom svijeta, koji govore univerzalnim jezikom, jezikom nauke. I srećna je što je nisu zaboravili, što ne samo da održavaju i jačaju svoje veze sa njom, već i pomažu da uspostavi naučnu konekciju sa drugim državama, da se crnogorske naučno-istraživačke ustanove i istraživači povežu i sarađuju sa svojim kolegama širom svijeta. Jaka naučna dijaspora, osim izuzetnog značaja za matičnu državu, podrazumijeva i veliku odgovornost za tu državu. Usudit ću se da kažem, što je država manja, to je ova odgovornost veća. Veze i saradnju ne može njegovati samo jedna strana. Kao što rekoh, mi smo u Crnoj Gori srećni što je naša dijaspora otvorena za saradnju, ali o toj saradnji moramo pažljivo brinuti i sami, kako na ličnom, tako na institucionalnom i državnom nivou. Stoga ideju Crnogorske akademije nauka i umjetnosti i Univerziteta Crne Gore za ovakvo okupljanje, odnosno ideju koja je počela, koju je iznio profesor Milutinović, za koju mu dugujemo zahvalnost, te svi napori za realizaciju ove ideje zaslužuju izuzetno poštovanje, a ja sam počastvovana što danas imam priliku da vam se obratim u ime Ministarstva nauke i tehnološkog razvoja, koje pruža punu podršku ovakvim inicijativama. U prethodnu rečenicu sam smjestila 3 vodeće institucije kad je u pitanju nauka Crne Gore. Ali ne treba da zaboravimo i zanemarimo ostale subjekte i aktere naučno-istraživačke djelatnosti u našoj državi koji rade i djeluju u drugim institucijama. Kao građevinskom inženjeru dozvolit ćete mi jedno poređenje. Svi smo mi u jednoj zajedničkoj kući nauke i svi imamo svoje mjesto, svoj značaj i svoju ulogu u njoj. Za korisnike te kuće, za udobnost njihovog života, svaka prostorija u njoj je značajna. Budući da te prostorije, odnosno naše naučno-istraživačke ustanove, imaju različite funkcije i nema smisla pitati korisnika koja prostorija mu je najznačajnija. Sa druge strane, ono o čemu korisnik možda ne razmišlja stalno, a od suštinskog je značaja za kvalitet njegovog života, jeste sigurnost konstrukcije te kuće, za koju je značajna uloga svih njenih konstruktivnih elemenata, i krova, i stubova, i greda, i temelja, i tako dalje. Svaki od ovih elemenata ima svoj posao i mora ga obavljati valjano da bi kuća opstajala i služila svojoj svrsi. Nadam se da mi naučno-istraživačka zajednica neće zamjeriti ovo poređenje institucija i subjekata naučno-istraživačke djelatnosti sa prostorijama i elementima konstrukcije kuće. Suština je u ključnoj riječi iz naziva ovog skupa: sinergija, zajednički rad, udruživanje snaga, pogotovo kad su u pitanju male države, pogotovo kad je u pitanju zajednica u kojoj su naše uloge isprepletane. Ja vas danas pozdravljam kao ministar nauke i tehnološkog razvoja Crne Gore, kazah u ime ministarstva koje u potpunosti podržava ovakve inicijative. Ali ja vas ujedno pozdravljam i u ime ove dvije institucije čije ime figuriše na vrhu slajda, odnosno ispred ove konferencije. Ja sam vanredni profesor Univerziteta Crne Gore, ovo je moja matična kuća. Ja sam bivši član Centra mladih naučnika pri Crnogorskoj akademiji Nauka i umjetnosti, tako da i tu se na neki način osjećam svojom. Sinergija je ono što nam je neophodno. Sinergija kako unutar same matice, tako i u odnosima sa dijasporom i sa prijateljima. Stoga me izuzetno raduje što smo se danas okupili u najljepšem sastavu, matica, dijaspora i prijatelji Crne Gore, da govorimo zajedničkim jezikom budućnosti, jezikom naučnog istraživanja. U ime Crne Gore ponosna sam što danas pozdravljam punu salu, a posebno me raduje što već planiramo ovakve skupove za naredne godine. Još jednom bih zahvalila svim našim gostima što su svojim odzivom omogućili uspješnu organizaciju skupa, kao i organizatorima što su sve pokrenuli. Želim vam uspješan rad danas i sjutra, dugu tradiciju ovakvih manifestacija u narednom periodu. Dear Professor Shetman and the other guests from other countries, dear friends of Montenegro, thank you very much for honoring us with your presence, for devoting your time to us and for being with us in this occasion. Thanks a lot.
Ministarka, zahvaljujemo. Riječ ima dobitnik Nobelove nagrade, gost Univerziteta Crne Gore i Crnogorske akademije Nauka i umjetnosti, Dan Šahman.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my third visit to Montenegro, and I enjoy each one of these visits. In the first visit, I met the Bay of Kotor, sailing there. In my second visit, I met the people of Montenegro and also the scientists and the nature of the country. So in this visit, I will probably do the same after this conference, and Veiko, my host, take good care of us. I'm here with my wife, Professor Sipol Shechtman. She is from the Haifa University, and she is an expert in education, and she's well-known internationally in her field. Let me start by saying a few general words. I come from Israel. It's a small country, just about double the size of Montenegro. You have 650,000 people here, or more or less. We are close to 10 million people. We grow at the pace of 2% a year, thanks to two phenomena: high birth rate and immigration into the country. People would like to come and live in Israel. You lose people. That has to change. Montenegro is a very rich country. You have, besides wonderful sights and wonderful weather, you also have natural resources. You have hydroelectric electricity, and you use it to make metallic alloys, aluminum, for example. And what you export is basically natural resources. This is the livelihood of the country. Natural resource, this is what you sell. We don't have natural resources. We sell human ingenuity. By selling natural resources and by developing tourism, you cannot rise very far. you have to sell human ingenuity. And the subject of my talk is how to do that. How do you develop the products based on human ingenuity? So this is the subject of my talk. I'm from the Technion, and I also have a position in Iowa State University in the United States. What you see here is called demographic pyramid. What does it mean, demographic pyramid? It means the following. Do I have a laser here? Let me see. No. I can turn off the screen, but I don't have a laser here. Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah, I have a little laser here. Okay, great. Look at the red one down here. So on this axis, you have the number of people. Red is women, blue is men. And you see that it's called demographic pyramid because it looks like a pyramid. In Israel, it looks like a pyramid. Many young children, so as you see here, the ages from 0 to 20 or so. This is the age in which people study. Many young people. And then this is the working age, officially between 15 and 65. We have less people here, and then, of course, less and less as people die as they grow up. Now, this is Montenegro. It doesn't look like a pyramid. It looks more like a mushroom. You have a small number of people at the early age. You have a good number of people at the working age, and then, of course, it ends up here. You see, this is the future. This is current, as far as economy goes. So this has to change. And my talk will elaborate a little bit on this. Number of children per woman, 1.4. In Israel, it's 3 or 3.2. Double the number here. Let's continue. So this is Israel, and this is Montenegro, and you can see the difference. By the way, as you can see in Montenegro, at the working age, you have more men than women. Does it have a social impact? I don't know. Socialists will say that. But this is not usual. So what can we do? Well, number one, encourage larger families. And the government can do that. You can encourage larger families. And the government, by different means, can do a few things. Number one, and many countries do that. Many countries work on that. Russia, by the way, is working hard to increase the number of children per woman. So are other countries. So what can you do? Well, you can give a longer maternity leave with salary. The government can do that. You can give maternity leave to the husband, also covered by the government. You can give early child education, daycare education for very small children so the mother can go to work. You can do many things, but this is not the subject of my talk. So you can encourage larger families. And the other thing is encourage technological entrepreneurship. And this is the subject of my talk. How do you encourage technological entrepreneurship? So what is technological entrepreneurship? It's the establishment of a new technology venture. You have to establish it, has to be new, it has to do with technology, and it is a venture. Some win, some lose. The more you know how to do the right thing about establishing a new startup, the better is the chance of your success. And this is why you should teach your students how to do that, in my opinion. I did it at the Technion, and I will tell you about it in a few minutes. Okay, So why is technological entrepreneurship important for the well-being of societies, countries, and the world, and for Montenegro? Why is it so important? Well, let's look at the world today. First of all, there are struggling economies. In many countries, the economy is struggling. Unemployment problems and other problems that I will mention soon. Local, tribal, and international wars. I added international last week because before we did not have international wars. It's the first time in a long time that we have international war. What does it happen? Waves of refugees. Waves of refugees from different countries to other countries. People run for their lives, and people run for better lives. So, and this is a major problem. Building a sustainable economy requires development of human ingenuity. Human ingenuity. So, how can you do that? How can you develop human ingenuity? First of all, good basic education to all, to everybody. Not only to the people of the capital of the country, but also to the people in the villages. In the villages, families tend to have more children. So this is the future. So they have to be well educated. It's very important that they're well educated. And this is why teachers are the most important people in every country, because they carry the future of the country in their hands. So investment in education is job one for every government. Education is job one. Okay, good basic education. Good engineering and science education, because technology is based on engineering and science. In engineering, you develop the products that the scientists invent and develop. So basic education for engineers and science, which you do in your university. Next is government policy and support. Governments can support technological entrepreneurship. In Israel, we do a fantastic job in supporting technological entrepreneurship. We are not perfect. We are very far from perfect in Israel. But on this case, I will tell you about it soon, how it's done in Israel, and very successful. Okay? Free market economy. Anybody object that free market economy is very important? Let me tell you something. I gave a similar talk in South America, one of the countries in South America. And when I came to this free market economy, they say, no free market economy. Free market economy is neo-capitalism. The United States will come and take everything. No. And I said to them, this talk was given in the parliament of their country, by the way, to the delegates. I said to them, if you will protect your products, your economy will die. You cannot do that. Don't do that. Yes, free market economy is very important. Let people trade, buy, sell. Merchants are very peaceful people. They want to make money, not wars. Free market economy. And the most important is no corruption. Corrupt countries fail. And job number 2, remember job number 1 of the government is education. Job number 2, stop corruption. Every country has some degree of corruption. Every country, or almost every country, has some degree of corruption. But this is very important that you eliminate to the minimum the corruption level. Corruption kills. Let me give you an example. I spoke to a lady in a country that I will not mention, but their economy is not doing very well. And when I said that corruption kills, she said, oh, let me give you an example. She says, I wanted to create a small company. She makes a little product and she wanted to make a company to sell this product. I said, okay, so what's the problem? She said, well, there is a form that I have to present for the government to allow me to open the company. So I fill in the form, and I go to the right office, and I show it to the person who has to sign it. I give it to them. He said, okay, fine. And he puts it under a pile like this of other applications. And I said to him, the lady says, how long will it take? Well, probably 2 years. She said, no, but I want to open it now. It's in university around the world. How do they do this? They teach startup management in MBA programs. This is very common. In MBA programs around the world, they teach startup management. Why do I talk about technological entrepreneurship? I'll tell you why. I studied from my BSc, mechanical engineering. My dream in life was to become a mechanical engineer. And I graduated as a mechanical engineer. I will not dwell on why I became a scientist. But during my studies, the spirit of the Technion, my university, told us something like, you will be so good that when you graduate, everybody will want to hire you. And I said, this is very nice, but what if I want to open my own technology business? Why don't you teach me how to do that? I told my professors. They said, oh, no. We do not teach how-to courses. We teach principles. I said, all right. And then I became part of the faculty of the Technion, and in 1986 I became a full professor. And I said, okay, now I can do whatever I want. And I started a class called Technological Entrepreneurship at the Technion. It was not easy to start it, but I did go through the system and started it. So, and I ran it for 30 years, and the class continues now. I retired, but the class continues now. One of my colleagues, a good friend, is running it now at Technion. So how does the class work? I'm telling you how the class works because I'm talking in a university, and maybe you would like to adopt some of these ideas. So it has, in my class, in the first years, I had 600 students in my class every week. I taught every week 600 students. Why is this number 600 students? Because this is the largest hall of the Technion. I could not take more students. And then it grew smaller to become 300, and it was stable at 300 students. I cannot teach technological entrepreneurship. What do I know? I bring invited speakers. And these invited speakers teach the class, and they are made of 3 groups. Group number 1, successful entrepreneurs. These are the people who built the high-tech companies in Israel. These are old-timers. Most of them were older than I was. These are the people who started from zero and became billionaires. And they did it in their own 2 hands. So I invited them one by one to talk to my class, to tell them what they did and how they did, and I will elaborate a little bit on this. I must tell you that as an anecdote, that when I started my class, I went to the number 1 entrepreneur in the country. And he was I never met him before, but I knew of him. He didn't know about me. Later on, we became bosom buddies, great friends. And I said to him, I want you to tell my students, you'll be number 1 in my class. You'll tell my students how you open your company. So we had a few arguments. He was very rude to me, but he came. I told him, your mission is to tell the students how you did it because you and I want more entrepreneurs in the country. Help me, please do that. The second person was the man who opened the microelectronics industry in Israel. He asked me, well, what about this country? Anybody was there? I said, yes, this number 1 was, oh, I'm coming. And from there on, it was very, very easy. Because the first ones that I brought were the fathers of entrepreneurship in the country and some of the mothers of entrepreneurship in the country. And after that, anybody I called and they asked, what is this class? Who was there? And I gave them the list. I'm coming. One person in 30 years refused to come. And he is also a politician. So let's forget about him. Sorry, politician. Second, new startup entrepreneurs. Now I bring in the second group, young entrepreneurs. These are the people who opened a company 2 years ago, 5 years ago. They're still fighting to succeed. And they tell my students, what are the problems? And the problems are different. For somebody, he doesn't have enough money. For somebody, she cannot get the right employees. For somebody, they have a product and they find difficulties to sell it. They have different, and they tell the students how to overcome this problem from their own experience. And then I bring also professionals. So who are the professionals? I bring a lawyer who tells the students what is a limited company and why you should open a limited company and not take the financial burden on your narrow shoulders. I bring somebody who talks about marketing. How do you market your product? I bring the patent officer of the country to tell about IP, intellectual properties. How can you defend your intellectual property? Is it worth defending? How to do it best? These are very practical. And also I bring somebody to talk about market survey. Why you should be an expert in the market before you even enter the market. Why you should be such an expert? Because you should know the competition, you should know the price range, you should know the direction in which the field is going. You should know all that before you even start. So market survey is very important. Last but not least is company culture. Company culture sounds like an elusive idea. Well, company culture, is it important? Very important. Let me give you an example. We have in Israel a company that produces, it still does, chips for printers in the world. If you buy a printer for your office or home that is connected to your laptop, the chip inside is made by an Israeli company. One day, their development group discovered that they have a bug in the chip that they sell. The question now is, the bug shouldn't cause real problems. It is a very, very, very slim chance that anybody will do all the operation needed for the bug to be effective. So there are two options now. Do we tell the customers, which are the largest producers in the world, that we have a bug? Or we should just be quiet and the old printers will go away and nobody will know about it. If we tell the companies, the reaction may be one or two. Either they will say, okay, we don't do business with you, we don't buy chips with bugs. Or they will say, well, we know how difficult it was for you to tell us, we appreciate you did that. Please fix it right away and make sure things like this never happen again. I don't need to test them. I just want exposure. I want the students to be exposed to the spirit of entrepreneurship from the experts. And the class was extremely successful. So what can an experienced invited entrepreneur talk about? How they started. And the stories you hear are amazing. And the students can relate to it because they are at the same stage. And most of the fathers of entrepreneurship of the country didn't have money to bring food home. I mean, they really started from zero. And they made it big time. The difficulties they faced and the way they solved them. How did you find, what were your financial resources? How did they find the first partners? How did they find customers? What is the company culture that I mentioned? Everything is very important. Motivation. The motivation should be the startup itself, not money. Money is a byproduct of the success of the startup. So focus on the success of the startup, get enough money to support the startup, but don't think about billions in the future. Concentrate on the success of the startup. If you succeed, everything will be fine. Money is a byproduct of successful business. Okay. So mistakes that lead to failure of startups. Many of the lectures talk about mistakes, and this is very important. Non-professional management by the technological entrepreneur. People have ego. You heard about it. They have ego. So there's an entrepreneur, young man, young woman, who start a product, who start a startup, and it's successful, and they manage it. Can they manage a startup when it starts to grow? Most cases, not. No. You are a great inventor. You know how to establish a startup, but does it mean that you know how to run it? In most cases, not all cases, in most cases, this is not the case. Hire a professional manager. You can still be the chair of the head of the board. You can be everything else. You can support innovation in your company, but let somebody professional run the company for you. Don't insist on doing it yourself. Insufficient market survey and lack of market knowledge. Okay, you burst into the market and then you realize that in Bangladesh they do the same product. They sell it for 1/4 of the price that you demand. You should have known it before. Okay. Wrong money sources. Wrong money sources? Can money be wrong? Of course it can be wrong. Let me elaborate a little bit on wrong money. I think I'll do it later. Partnering with friends rather than professionals. This is very typical. Here are these three friends who studied together in school. They are good buddies, and they go to meet the girls together, and they go to the beach together, and they say, hey, I have an idea, let's open a company. And they do. But is it the right combination of partners? In many cases, this is not the right combination. All of them know how to start products, but is anybody of them understand in money, in finance? Anybody understand in what is the law? Anybody understand about marketing? Anybody? So they all do the same thing, and really you should have a better mingle. By the way, in a survey that was done at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, in the Sloan School there, they discovered that if the company has a larger number of partners, they are more successful. The larger, doesn't come right to me, but this is what they have found. The more partners you have to establish the company, the more successful you are. Probably because they can cover more fields that a single person or two people cannot do. Okay. And ego-driven entrepreneurship. I know best. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Yes. Keep your ideas, but listen. Talk less, listen more. You'll have a better chance to succeed. And bad contract among founders. Our recommendation is go to the best lawyer in town and sign the best contract, detailed, extremely detailed, so that if something happens and you decide to part, to divorce, but not kill the company, then the contract will tell you exactly how to follow it. So write the best contract. Before I go to cultural consideration, I'd like to talk a little bit about money. I think I didn't put this on the presentation. Well, let's finish this and then we'll talk about this. Cultural consideration. In many countries, there is fear of failure. Why is that? Because failure is a shame on you, shame on your family, shame on your city, God forbid, shame on the government. Maybe not in Montenegro, definitely not in Israel, but in the east part of the world, China, Korea, Japan, in these countries, it's a shame. If you fail, it's a shame. And people will not dare taking the risk of opening a startup because there's a good chance you'll fail. So when I speak in these countries, and also to you, I say, failure, okay, start again. It's not a shame on you, it is not a shame on your family, it's not a shame on anybody. Sometimes the situation is such that the company did not succeed. Start again. By now, you are an experienced entrepreneur. You will not make the same mistakes again. You have much better chance to succeed, and research shows that this is true. The second time people open a startup, the chances to succeed are by far better. So my class tells the student, don't learn from your own experience and fail. Learn from other people's experience, and you have a better chance to succeed in the first trial. So this is the essence of the class. Failure again. Failure, okay, start again. In some countries, people say, come again to our country, but we want this to be the title of your talk because we have a real problem in our country. People are afraid to open startup. Okay. Government role. Government can support startup companies. In Israel, we do the best job in the world in supporting startup companies. I'll tell you how it's done in Israel. First of all, the government can open incubators, some private, some government. Incubator is when companies can start with, and the incubator will give them the needed support, an office, a laboratory, some management services for free, and some loan from the government to start startups. These are incubators. Partnership with VC funds. VC or venture capital funds. Why is it a job of the government? I'll tell you, because in the days of the early days of startups in Israel, many years ago, the government turned to the world and say, hey, venture capital funds, come to Israel and invest, and we are partners. We will invest 40%, you will invest 60% in the company. Wow, what a deal. So many venture capitals, international venture capital companies came, the government invests 40%, so the government takes 40% of the risk, and the government will probably support us because they want to succeed. That was successful, okay? So here is an example how the government can produce the money. By the way, the government of Israel at the time gathered $100 million for the project. That's not big money now, but at the time it was very big money, and it was very helpful. Okay, form chief scientist office in every ministry. In Israel, every ministry has a chief scientist. And the chief scientist is the person that can talk to the government, can talk to the minister, and he or she can talk to the startup people. This is the bridge, oops. This is the bridge between the people and the government, the chief scientist. But in Israel, besides having chief scientists in every government office, in every ministry, we have the chief scientist. The chief scientist is #1 chief scientist in the country. I know him very well. He did his master's degree with me, so we are great friends, and he's a fantastic person. He has a budget to distribute every year to startup companies, but not only to startup companies, also to startup initiatives within existing companies. If the existing company has an idea to develop a new product, they can use their own money, or they can turn to the government and say, please help us develop this product and give us some money to do that. So either startups or ideas in larger companies. He has $500 million to distribute every year. $500 million to distribute every year. Israel is #1 in doing this in the world. So, and they are very successful. The chief scientist told me that over the years, for every dollar that the government invested, they get back $5. So it's a wonderful investment. In a few years, 5-fold. Who can do that? But so this is fantastic investment, and you can do it here. I'm not sure that you can afford $500 million every year for a startup, but something. Okay. Support industrial innovation R&D in startups, and this is what they do. Sign binational agreements and support binational funds. There are binational funds between Israel. I'm sure Montenegro also have binational funds with some countries. We have binational funds with the largest countries in the world and the most industrial countries in the world, and there are joint projects. This is very important because these people are ahead in some fields. And form and support instruction and advice centers for emerging startup. In every city, in every big city in Israel, we have an office. If a startup has a problem, whatever problem there is, he can come there and receive advice from professionals. There is a lawyer there, and there is an industrialist there, and a chemist there, a physicist there. And they can get advice. Usually it is free, or for a nominal sum of money, you can get these advices. But it's available. Okay. Now I want to talk about money. Venture capital funds, is it good or bad? Because venture capital funds are a very common place to get money. And I have a problem with them. And I'll tell you why it is so. How does a venture capital funds work? So venture capital fund, let's say that one person, let's say that I want to open a venture capital fund. I turn to a few friends that have big money, and I said, okay, please invest $1 million in the venture capital fund, my venture capital fund. I will invest it in several startups that I will choose, and you trust me that I know what I do. And in a few years, 5 years, 7 years, you will get your money back with all the profits from the startups. Okay, this is how it works. What's the problem with it? The problem is that the venture capital fund has to pay back the investors in a given time, 5 years. 5 years is not enough time for companies, for many companies to succeed. So the company cannot pay back yet. So the venture capital fund says, well, in this case, we'll have to sell you. So they sell the venture capital fund. I'm sorry, they sell the startup, and in many cases, the startup is gone to a larger company that fires everybody, takes the idea, and develop it in their own on their own premises. So this is a problem with venture capital funds. Some people in venture capital funds tell me that their investors ask them, please reinvest. Don't pay us. We don't need the money now. Reinvest in the companies until they really grow to become something fantastic. Some do that, but many don't do that. And that kills young startups. So that's not a very good idea. So this is the problem with startup. Okay. So if I need to get money, where should I go? Number one is angels. What are angels? Let's say that, let's say that I want to open a startup in developing software for computer science. So I go to a person who did that big time, and he now is quite rich, and I say, you know, why don't you be my partner? I have this idea. And if he or she, if they invest in your young company, then they have two things. Number one, they're interested in your company. It's not just any company, it's one of they are a part of the company. And number two, they know the field. They can connect you to the company, to where you can sell. They can connect you to the world. They are wonderful partners for you. So angel is the best way to get money. On my list, I'm subjective. Strategic partners. Okay, so now you have a product. Let's say that you produce a product like a vacuum cleaner, and you go to one of these large companies of vacuum cleaners and say, you know, you produce vacuum cleaners, it's wonderful, you are very successful. I have a vacuum cleaner that is different than yours. Why don't we collaborate so that I will make the vacuum cleaners and you will sell them? And we make partnership. You have the market. I can do that. I can make it. You have the market. Let's partner. And so these are strategic partners. It's also very good. But you cannot do it the first stage, only when you have a product. Bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means open a company with no money. How can you open a company with no money? You can, because you have something of great value. That something is your company. So instead of offering money to a computer programmer that will develop the program for you, give him or her part of your company. Say, okay, this program is very important for my product. I'll give you 20% of my company, and you develop it. You agree? Okay, and many of them agree, and so on and so forth. So you can do bootstrapping, and this is commonly done. Bootstrapping, offer something of value to somebody who can really help you. And if you, and you know, be large. Right now, your company is worth 0. Be large with this 0. Together, you will succeed, and everybody will be happy. And VC funds are last on my list, and now we understand why. Okay. What money we should not use? My recommendation. If you don't have deep pockets, if you do not have deep pockets, do not use your own money. Don't sell your car or your apartment for a fantastic idea, because you are liable to lose your car, your apartment, your wife, and children. Don't do that. Don't use your own money unless you have a lot of money. Okay, but mostly try not to use your own money. Use the money of people who can lose it without too much concern. Do not take money from relatives or friends. You know, you take money from your aunt and you start a company, and 2 weeks later she calls, how are we doing? Are we getting some money already? Oh, no, auntie, it will take 5 years before you can. 5 years? Okay, don't do that. All right, don't take from relatives. Take the money from the list I gave you. Okay. I want to bring up 2 subjects because I only have a few minutes to finish my talk. These are other projects that I did, and they're all the basis for future generations to become startup people. And early science education. 1 minute story. 2012, after my Nobel, I talk on the radio in Israel. They interview me, live radio interview. And I talk about education, and I say we should start teaching science as early as possible. Okay, end of interview. The mayor of Haifa calls me from his car. We know each other. We're also neighbors. Calls me, hey, Danny, he says, I just heard you on the radio. You said early science education. I said, yep. How early? I said, kindergarten. Start teaching science in kindergarten. He said, will you do it in Haifa? I said, do you pay? He said, I will pay. And we started a program, and it's a program that started with 60 kindergartens, and I will just mention one point. The cherry on this cake is a special science kindergarten. It's a building that has 90 children aged 5 to 6, and 3 kindergarten teachers, 30, and it has a laboratory. And when you enter the laboratory, you think that you're in a university. Oh, nice chemical laboratory. Very nice, nice microscopes. Nice. But then you look down at the round table, and there are 10 young children aged 5 to 6, laboratory coat, very seriously performing experiments. And the teacher is a lady with masters in chemistry. She can teach high school, but she prefers to teach young children. Fantastic success. I invite people from all over the world to come and see and copy. It will be excellent for the whole world. And in many countries, they send delegations to see the kindergarten. I take them there, and I tell them, take 1,000 pictures, copy it. In one country in Europe, small country in Europe, very small country, a delegation came of 3 professors, by the way, and they took many pictures, and 2 years later, they wrote me an email, Danny, we opened 16 such kindergartens in our city. Fantastic. So it can be done. I had a television science program that I started. It's called To Be a Scientist with Professor Dan. On our national educational television, they created a laboratory for me on the set, and it was a very successful program. And it is on the internet. Problem is, you need to know Hebrew to understand what's going on there. So, and maybe some of you know, Startup Nation, Israel is called Startup Nation, and for a good reason. And it is a startup nation because everything I said is being performed there. Good basic education, good engineering and science education, government support, no corruption. Thank you very much. So I will take question. If you want to ask in English, then I will understand.
It was extremely useful to me as a scientist who does not have any training and education to hear such a talk. However, my question is, have you tried to open your own startup, and what is your personal experience with that? Because this is nice to educate people on how to open startup, but it's very different when you start doing that on your own. And perhaps maybe some of your ideas are going to be helpful for our startup.
Okay, wonderful question. Stay here. By the way, in many countries, this is just an introduction to answering you. In many countries, people prepare the question and they read it. They read the question. And before they read the question, they give me a speech of a couple minutes of speech and then the question. So don't do that. A question is 10 words with a question mark at the end, and I will understand that question. I have no personal experience in opening companies. I do have many initiatives, mainly in education. Right now, my wife, Professor Sipi Shechtman, is a partner to that initiative with many other people, and we bring metaverse to school. We create programs and bring metaverse. You know, metaverse is bring this world of 3 dimensions into school. And this is the current initiative. And I had quite a few other initiatives, but I have no experience, and this is why I cannot teach technological entrepreneurship. I only know it's important, and we bring other people to teach. Other questions? Stay here. Yes?
What do you think would be, what you think it will be the major obstacle in forming startups in the countries which had a traditional way of living and traditional thinking, also on the background of some cultural Mediterranean surrounding like we have in Montenegro?
Yes, I will answer your question. It has to do with culture. You can sit down. It has to do with culture. Startups grow in groups. Startups grow because people communicate. Look at the United States. You know it better than Israel. Silicon Valley, huge amount of startups, huge number, around very good universities. Boston, very large number of startups. Baltimore in biology because of Johns Hopkins University. Texas, also a center of very good universities and startups. So it grows in groups because people talk, and because of this entrepreneurial communication, it works. Usually, if somebody in an isolated place on an island has an idea, and he or she do not have the environment of entrepreneurship, it doesn't work. So your question is very good. You have to live in an environment of entrepreneurship. And what we have created in Israel is exactly that. That everybody talks about entrepreneurship, and they talk about it all the time. And people communicate. Let me tell you something else that happens in Israel that I did mention. Okay, I have two things to tell you. Your GDP per capita is $10,000, about. Israel GDP per capita is $50,000. Switzerland GDP per capita is, I think, $90,000. You want to be between Israel and Switzerland. See it as your goal. It's a very high goal. It takes years to do. But you have to tell yourself, this is where we want to be. And if you do that, if you take as a nation an initiative to do that,